Stick around because in this video I've got 5 things that I recommend you do not do before you take off into the United States Army. What's up, my friends? Welcome to an all-new video. I'm U.S. Army veteran ThatChrisChaos, and today I've got 5 things that, in my opinion, I definitely recommend don't do. These are some mistakes that I've seen people make and everything, or that I can think of that people kind of related to, like when they ask me questions about stuff that are a bad idea, right? Not something that's gonna like destroy your Army career or anything like that, but in my opinion, things that I just kind of recommend maybe to make life easier in the Army, whatever the case is. So I've got 5 things that I'm gonna try to hook you up with. If you are not subscribed to my channel, make sure you click on that subscribe button. Also click on that bell to get alerts as soon as new videos go live, to include the live streams and become a part of that awesome notification platoon. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram. Just look for ThatChrisChaos, look for ThatChrisChaos. Links down in the description, all that easy stuff to access. Follow me on Instagram. You can hit me up, shoot me some messages, and I'll try to do my best to answer your questions if you want to ask me questions via Instagram. So let's talk about 5 things I don't recommend. Let's start off with the very first one, and the first thing I recommend you do not do before you take off into the Army is get married. Sounds pretty extreme, right? Right off the bat, there's gonna be people in the comments say, I don't recommend getting married at all if you're in the military, kind of a thing, whatever, right? But for the most part, before you go into the Army, I don't recommend that you get married. Here's why. A lot of people, they're like, I wanna get married because I want to show my commitment to this person. I want to lock them down to me, whatever the case is. I want to start receiving that BAH and BAS or whatever. And, I want to, be married with this person for the rest of my life. And I want to start before I join the Army. Here's the thing. For some relationships, basic training and being apart can be very difficult, especially if you've never experienced that before. If you've never had that before the military, of having times where you're gone for a month, 2 months, whatever kind of a thing, and your relationship, is really tested during that time frame, it's not a good idea to go and get married and then test that relationship. That's a bad time to find out that your spouse, your partner cannot kind of function, cannot deal with being separated from you. So you go and you get married, and then of course you hear the stories about Jody and everything like that, and things happen, right? And this is a good test for the relationship, yes, but not to the extreme of let's get married and test it. So if you're in a great relationship, I'm not saying dump that person and get rid of him, no, but this is a good test to see if that relationship can really handle something like this. Can it handle a situation where I'm gonna be gone for several months? Can it handle if I get deployed? Can it handle if I'm going to the field for 2 weeks or a month or whatever? So then if you make it through basic training, you make it through AIT, and you get to your first duty assignment and everything like that, and you're still with that person that you love, that you wanted to get married to, sure. Then start pursuing, maybe some steps to see about getting married so you can get yourself out of the barracks and spend some time with that spouse and everything like that. If your relationship held up through all that, then maybe it's meant to be. But don't rush into it and then find out that my relationship can't handle us being apart for several weeks, several months, and then it falls apart and you're already married, and now you have to go through the whole hassle of having to get divorced and everything else. So at least wait until you get to your first duty assignment before getting married. Also, kind of along with that, don't rush into marriage, right? Make sure that it's right, it's the right time. You've got to know that person, you've got some ups and downs, and if this is really gonna be something that you want to move forward into a marriage. Don't just get married just to get out of the barracks and receive BAH. Tip number 2 of not to do before you join the Army is to buy a car. Now, there can be circumstances where sure, that's fine. Like if you're already married and you wanted to buy the car, that way your spouse, has something reliable before you take off to basic training at AIT, that's fine. I'm talking about like a single soldier. If you're a single soldier and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go buy a car, and then that way I have something for while I'm in the Army, cool, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't recommend that because there's a lot of situations where that can just be kind of wasteful, I guess you could say, because you're gonna go to basic training, you're gonna go to AIT, you're gonna go to OSIT, whatever. So you're making car payments on a car you're not even driving. Maybe someone else is gonna be driving it, I don't know what the case is gonna be, but you're making payments on this car that you're not even getting a chance to drive. You still have to pay insurance, you still have to pay registration, all of that stuff. Then let's say in a scenario where you complete basic training, AIT, OSIT, whatever the case is, and now you're getting shipped off to like Korea or something like that where you can't bring your vehicle with you. Now you're looking at being in Korea for about a year, maybe 2 years, and you're not gonna have your vehicle at all. So now you're making this car payment on a car that's just kind of sitting there collecting dust, or somebody else is, using it or whatever, and you're not even getting a chance to enjoy it. So I would say wait until you get to your very first duty assignment and decide if you really feel you need a vehicle, right? There are some kind of situations where some soldiers don't buy a vehicle at all. I have a video where I actually recommended, as one of the, must-haves or recommended kind of things, one of them being a vehicle. But there are some opportunities where you can get away without having a vehicle, right? Maybe your motor pool or wherever you work is pretty close to the barracks, so you can walk there, you can get a bicycle and ride a bike over there. But sometimes it goes beyond that, not just going from your barracks to work. Sometimes it's beyond that and you want to have some fun. You want to go, explore the area and stuff, and that's a little hard to do probably with walking or riding a bicycle. Some installations have like on-post shuttles, or you can hitch a ride with someone else. So it really just kind of depends on personal preference and what your lifestyle is like, whether or not you need a vehicle or not. But wait until you get to your first duty assignment. You get to your first duty assignment, get a kind of feel for things, how things are working, make sure you're not about to deploy somewheres here real soon, and then it's gonna be worthless to buy a vehicle then because you're gonna be deployed for 6 months or a year or something kind of like that. And kind of feel it out and see if that's really right for you to buy a vehicle so that you have that then, not before you join the military. Also, side tip, make sure you don't go and get all crazy with it and go buy some big flashy fancy car on E1 pay because you don't have any other bills and you have this high crazy interest rate. Get something reasonable, manageable, something that's gonna allow you to be able to make your car payment, pay for car insurance, pay for registration, pay for gas, and have fun without blowing your entire paycheck on that vehicle. Tip number 3, don't get rid of your stuff. I've seen some kind of like single soldiers, really is what this would apply to, where they're like, oh, I'm going off to basic training or OSIT, so I'm gonna go ahead and sell my TV. I'm gonna sell all this stuff or whatever. I'm gonna get rid of everything that I have so that I have nothing. I can see some situations where that might be okay, right? You're getting rid of your place, you don't have anywhere to store this stuff, you don't have family, you don't wanna pay for a storage facility to store all this stuff, so you just wanna get rid of it. Sure, that's okay. But if you have the option to be able to hang on to this stuff, maybe leave it with family, put it in storage, leave it with a friend or something like that, you might want that stuff when you get to your first duty assignment. Especially like, you got a TV, maybe you got a PlayStation, Xbox, a computer, whatever the case is, you're gonna be able to have that stuff when you get to your first duty assignment. You won't be able to have it in basic training or AIT, of course, but when you get to your first duty assignment, you can have that stuff shipped free of cost through the military. You will have an opportunity once you get to your first duty assignment to try to schedule for GIPSO, I think it's still called that, but to have transportation, pick up your stuff from wherever you're gonna be at. So if you have it back home in, let's say, California, and you're stationed out in Texas, Fort Riley in Kansas, or Fort Carson in Colorado, wherever, you can have that stuff shipped for free to where you're going to. As a single soldier, you're gonna have less things that you can have shipped compared to like a married soldier, but you can still have, some items shipped. Things you're not gonna be able to get shipped if you're a single soldier is like if you have a couch, you have a bed, you have certain other things, you might exceed the limitations as far as what you're allowed as a single soldier. So I usually recommend, maybe if you have a TV, you got some entertainment stuff, you got a lot of personal items, you have a lot of civilian clothes, whatever, all that stuff, have it shipped to your duty assignment and everything, and you'll have that to be able to enjoy and use while you're there. Married soldiers, they have a lot more that they're allowed to be able to ship. They can ship furniture, couches, beds, all that kind of stuff. Also, technically, you can actually ship a car too. So if you don't want to drive your vehicle from, one end of the United States to the other end of the United States compared to where you're being stationed or whatever, you can actually have, I think, up to 1 vehicle shipped. I think it goes to 2 if you're married or something like that. I don't know all the data on that, but the main thing here is that especially if you're a single soldier, don't just go get rid of everything because you don't need it anymore because you're joining the Army. There may be some items that you want to hang on to so that you can have them when you get to your first duty assignment. Tip number 4 is don't neglect things. Specifically is what I'm talking about is I've heard some stories about people, let's say in this scenario that you lived in California and you got maybe a parking ticket, maybe a speeding ticket, something like that. And you're like, hey, this thing is not due until after I'm already gonna be off into the United States Army and I'm probably not gonna be stationed in California. Maybe I got a feeling I'm gonna be stationed here or there or whatever the case is. And I'm just gonna say, screw it, and I'm not gonna pay that. Well, that stuff will eventually catch up with you, all right? Especially like, things like that, speeding tickets, parking tickets, those kind of things. They're gonna catch up to you and then they're gonna affect your military lifestyle because your leadership's gonna find out, hey, you have this outstanding parking ticket or this outstanding speeding ticket that you didn't pay. Now there's a warrant out for your arrest maybe or whatever back in California. And that goes for anything else in that type of scenario. Maybe you have some bills, maybe you have other types of things that you're figuring that, oh, I'm not gonna have to worry about that because I'm gonna be in the Army and they're not gonna come after me anymore. That stuff will catch up to you in some way or another. Maybe it's on your credit report, maybe it's, in some other ways. Especially I mentioned like credit report because that can factor in for like things like secret clearances. Now on a secret clearance, like I'm not saying that like, oh, you have to have a certain credit score, to get a secret clearance. No, but if you have a lot of debt, then they feel that you're more susceptible to like bribery from like terrorists or from other enemies or something like that. So they may be kind of reluctant or may decide to deny your security clearance because you have a lot of debt or you have a lot of history of bad credit. And so they figure maybe you're not a very creditable person that they want to rely on to give a security clearance to. So those are things you gotta kind of pay attention to. I'm not saying if you have like low credit score then you're not gonna get a security clearance. It's kind of why do you have that low credit score? Is it because you have just not a lot of credit history, or is it because you've gotten yourself in debt a lot and you don't pay those bills? So don't just go pushing stuff off to the side because you're gonna be heading off to the United States Army. Make sure you take care of that stuff, especially like speeding tickets, bills, all that kind of stuff, so it doesn't affect you later on. The fifth and last one that I'll recommend here is don't go buying a bunch of Army gear to set yourself up for like when you join the Army. Key example with this is like boots, right? I had like a recent kind of giveaway with hikes for some really great boots. They're amazing and everything like that. But I've seen some people where they're talking about, oh, I'd like to get these boots so that way I can take them to basic training or whatever with me and have a good pair of boots compared to the ones that are issued to you. That's not really a thing you can do because when you go off to basic training, you have to stick to those standard issue boots. You can't just bring any, comfortable boots that you want with you to basic training. So you have to stick to that standard issue stuff. So you don't want to have anything extra that you're bringing with you because you think it's gonna make it easier on you in basic training or in AIT. Stick to the standard issue stuff. Now, when you move on to your very first duty assignment, that's when you can kind of start gauging extra equipment that you want to get, that maybe you want to kind of get away from the issued stuff that the Army gives you and move to something that's a little bit better quality or more comfortable or whatever the case might be. That can include boots, right? You kind of get a feel for, those basic issue boots. If those ones are good enough and fine with you, then maybe you want to stick with those, right? Maybe you want to save your money for other things, right? But then you can kind of start gauging once you get to your first duty assignment, if I want to get different types of boots, maybe you talk to other soldiers, find out what they have that they recommend or what they've used in the past, and you can kind of get a feel for what you should get then. You don't need to go and get all crazy and be like, oh, I'm gonna get this cool helmet, I'm gonna get this cool vest. Usually the standard issue Army stuff of that type of thing is good enough and works just fine, and sometimes you can't even use any kind of commercial market items when it comes to those items anyways. One example of a thing that I ended up buying like additionally later on was like knee pads. You have some units where they require you to have to wear knee pads and elbow pads when you're in the field, when you're on a deployment, certain type of situations, and you have to wear those. There's other units, I'm not saying all units in the Army require you to do this, but there's some units that require you to wear these items. And the standard issue knee pads and elbow pads, I remember, weren't very good. They were very bulky. They kind of made you sweat like in those areas around your knees and your elbows because they weren't very breathable. So I ended up eventually buying my own pair, especially because during my second deployment to Iraq, it was required when you went outside the wire, went out of the FOB, that you had to wear elbow pads and knee pads, and the Army basic issue ones kind of sucked. So I got my own. They were a little bit more lightweight, a little bit more breathable, especially you're in Iraq, it's hot as hell, and you don't wanna add anything else extra that's gonna cause you to sweat more than you normally would. But there's a lot of other examples of different types of equipment that other soldiers recommend that, hey, ditch that standard issue stuff and get this instead. So you'll find that stuff out when you get to your unit. You'll end up talking to other soldiers that have had experience with that, and you can kind of get a feel for what's good, what's not good, what's gonna be authorized, what's not gonna be authorized, all that kind of stuff. So those were 5 tips that I kind of had of things to not do before you join the Army. Now, if you do some of this stuff, is it gonna ruin your Army career? No, I just recommend that you don't do these things, maybe to make things a little bit easier on you throughout your Army career before you take off and start your Army career, I guess. For my viewers out there that are currently in the Army, maybe some veterans or whatever, what else do you recommend someone not do before they join the Army? Obviously, there's gonna be somebody probably that says, yeah, don't join the Army. But I'm talking about actual legit tips, all right? If you have some kind of legit kind of, recommendations of things that you've seen in the past, maybe things you've done yourself, what, are something that you recommend to new young soldiers, don't do this before you join the Army. If you're not yet in the Army, well, maybe you have some questions. So do you have some questions about, hey, do you recommend I do this? Do you recommend I do that? I'll try to answer some questions. If my viewers, or have experience in that area and they want to answer that, then great, and help you out. So drop your comments down in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, think about maybe sharing it with some other people that could possibly utilize this information, but also be sure to hit that thumbs up for me. Check out links down in the description for social media, some affiliate links, my website, all sorts of stuff, to include the awesome Discord channel if you would like to join the Discord, interact with the community, interact with some people that are currently in the military, some veterans, some people that want to join the Army and have interest in it. Definitely recommend joining the Discord channel. You guys rock, you're awesome. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you next time.